Hello and welcome from the beautiful Martha Stacey building. This is David Bradley and welcome to MTTV's In the Kitchen. Today we're going to be talking about family style meals, and one of my favorite family meals that you can have is meatloaf. We're going to be making some meatloaf, some mashed potatoes, we're going to be making some sauteed sugar snap peas, and to finish it off we're going to make a homemade caramel sauce to pour over some delicious vanilla bean ice cream. But first, we're going to get our meatloaf started because that takes the longest to cook. And before I get started, go ahead and get our burger. I'm using 2 pounds of lean burger. You want to use a lean because you definitely don't want a really greasy meatloaf. And I'm also using some mild Italian sausage. And this right here is just going to enhance the flavor of our meatloaf. Get all that in here. And we'll go ahead and just set that aside. Just want to go ahead and get that out of the way. And now we're going to chop up half of an onion. And when I think about family meals, I think about something that's really good and comforting and just something that just everyone loves and can relate to. And meatloaf definitely fits the bill there. Now you can chop your onions however big that you like, and we're just using a half onion. I got these sweet Vidalia onions yesterday, and they just look so good, and I just picked them up. Use any kind of onion that you like. Some people like their onions with a lot more bite. Use them. Use whatever you like. So we're going to go ahead and we'll throw that in there. I actually like to taste the onion in my meatloaf, so I make them just a little bit bigger than probably what most normal people do. All right. And then we got this really nice, beautiful green pepper. And I'm just going to use about half of that pepper because I'm also going to use a red pepper here. And just kind of clean out our seeds. One of these seeds in there. Just going to dice it up as well. When I was growing up, the things I love the best about family meals like this is my Aunt Sharon. She would make the best meatloaf you ever eat. And I've tried others, and just about all meatloaf was good, but she put these peppers and onions in it, and I don't know, it just did something for me. And a lot of people don't use the peppers, and I absolutely love the use of the peppers. So I use it in my recipe too. This is a recipe that I just kind of made up on my own. I am one of those that loves to get into the kitchen and just kind of test foods and stuff. And so I did this, and of course this is very similar to the way most people prepare it, but I had to be a little different, and that's why I added the Italian sausage. And I love putting the mild sauces in. It gives it kind of a little bit of a sweet flavor, and I really like that. So just kind of continue to use our peppers. And the reason you can use just one certain, if you just like green peppers, and that's all you have, go ahead and feel free to use that. I just wanted to use a green and a red, just to kind of have a couple different colors in it. I think it looks nice. Try to get my seeds off that. I'll tell you, a big meat dish like this is, for you ladies out there, this is how you get to a man's heart. Fix something like this. Very good. All right. Get our bowl up here. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to pour in a couple tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. I don't know if anyone actually knows how to say that. I'll butcher it all I can. And I'm putting in 2 tablespoons of kosher salt. And I'm putting in 1/4 of a cup of light brown sugar. And I'm also going to crack 2 eggs. And these are fresh farm eggs. Come from my brother-in-law. He brought them to me yesterday. Love using fresh ingredients whenever I have them, up to and including the farm eggs. And then I'm just going to kind of get those stirred up a little bit. All right, pour that in. Then put in some fresh cracked pepper. Don't need a whole lot because you have the sausage, but if you don't use the sausage in yours and you just want to use the beef, put a little extra pepper in. I usually put in about a 1/2 teaspoon. All right, cook's best friends right here. Just get in and work every bit of this in. And I'm going to get this started. And then I'm going to put in my crackers over here. And the crackers and the egg will get this all binded up really nicely together. And just kind of crush them up as you put it in. If you don't have any crackers on hand, you can actually use fresh breadcrumbs. Take you about 3 slices of bread, and you can put them through a food processor and just work that in. Where I'm using the 2 different types of meat in here, I'm kind of going to spend a little extra time making sure all of that is worked in really good. And I'm just kind of folding and pressing. That's all I'm doing. You don't want to overwork the meat too much. So that's why I'm not in trying to stir it up or anything. I'm just kind of folding and pressing. So now we're going to put our mixture over on our baking sheet, and we're going to just make us a little loaf here. And we want that about just about 5 inches by 10 inches. Just try to get it as perfect as you can. And I love how all that looks with the different colors in it. All right. Now we're going to put this in a preheated oven to 350 for 1 hour. And then we're going to take it back out and we're going to put our glaze on it, and we're going to bake it for another 15 minutes until that kind of solidifies on top and caramelizes a little bit, and then it'll be ready. When we come back, we're going to be preparing and getting our stuff together for our mashed potatoes. Getting my mashed potatoes ready, I'm using Yukon Gold Yukon Gold is probably the best potato that there is for mashed potatoes, in my opinion. Now, you can use any kind of potatoes that you like. A lot of people around here for mashed potatoes use Idaho potatoes, and that's just fine. But if you want to do something a little bit special, and Yukon Gold potatoes do cost a little bit more, get you some Yukon Gold potatoes and at least just try them. They are so good, and they got a natural butter flavor, just all on their own. And of course, we're going to put a little bit more butter and a little bit more some heavenly stuff a little bit later, like some half and half, and salt and pepper and a little bit of butter. We're going to make them a whole lot better. So what I've got here is I have peeled about 2.5 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes. And what I'm going to do now, and I always just put them in water, that way they don't turn on you. And we're just going to cut these in half and just kind of quarter them, just like that. And we're going to put them in cold water. Now, one thing I want to tell you about potatoes is when you're making them, you don't want to start out in pot of boiling water. You want to start out cold. And the reason why you want to do that is so that they'll cook evenly and all cook at the same time. If you start it out with hot boiling water, you're going to get potatoes that are going to be hard on the inside and kind of tender on the outside, and you're not really going to have a very good potato. So that's why you start out with the cold water. Tell you what, these Yukon Gold potatoes are so good. These are probably the best that you can use for mashing potatoes, like the Idaho potatoes again for mashing potatoes. If you wanted to roast potatoes, I love to use the red potatoes. I think they're the best for roasting. And I tell you what, there ain't nothing better in this world than new potatoes fried. Mom fixed me some new potatoes yesterday and fried them, and she actually fried them whole, and it was so good. All right. So we've got our potatoes on now. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of salt to our water, kind of give them a little extra flavor. And we're going to turn our heat on medium-high heat. We're going to let that come to a boil, and then we're going to turn it down to a simmer, and we're going to let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes, or until you can take a fork, and they're kind of fork tender, and that way you'll know that they're ready. When we come back, we're going to go ahead and get started on some caramel sauce for our vanilla bean ice cream that we're going to have later. And then we'll come back and we'll finish up these mashed potatoes. Right, we're going to make our caramel sauce for our vanilla bean ice cream that we're going to be serving a little bit later. This caramel sauce is really easy, really rich, and so good. And what it starts with is a cup of sugar and 1/4 cup of water. And basically we're just going to let that heat up. It's going to turn a dark brown amber color. We're never going to stir this. We're just going to, the sugar's going to start to melt here in just a minute. And just every now and then we're going to pick up the pan just like this and just kind of swirl it. But we definitely don't want to stir it. And you need to be, of course, use care with when you do swirl it, because you definitely don't want to get the hot sugar syrup on you. And the reason that we do that is because if you stir, a lot of times the sugar and stuff will get up on the sides of the pan and start to crystallize, and then when you pour it out, it tastes a little bit grainy. If you pick it up and swirl it, you lessen that risk substantially. So, but we're going to let this cook for a little bit, usually about 5 minutes on medium-high heat. It's going to get a really good brown chestnut color, and then we'll be ready to add some more delicious ingredients like butter, heavy cream, and a little bit of fleur de sel. So stay tuned. Our sugar mixture is to the right color, and as you can see, it's a really nice brown color. So now what we're going to do is going to remove it from the heat, and we're going to carefully whisk in our heavy cream. Now it's going to solidify for a minute, and that's fine. Don't panic. This happens. Put in our about 3½ tablespoons of butter. Get that melted in. Just a matter of getting everything worked in. Put in a teaspoon of fleur de sel sea salt and a ½ teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Alright. Just going to continue to whisk that. It's going to take about 2 to 3 minutes of whisking and make sure the butter and everything melts in. And you'll just whisk it until the sauce becomes smooth. And then we'll set it aside to cool, room temperature, so that it'll be nice and ready when we get our ice cream out, ready to eat it. This caramel sauce is so very good to eat on the ice cream. And if you're going to make this your dessert, go buy you some really good ice cream. Now today, for our dessert, I bought us some Graeter's ice cream. And typically you can only find that at a Graeter's location, which was in Kentucky in Louisville. It's some of the best stuff you ever eat. But they now have it in Kroger's. And they're doing a little bit more commercially now. And it is so good. So we're going to use that. And put our caramel sauce on it. When we come back, we're going to get our potatoes ready to be mashed. And then we're going to start on our sugar snap peas. Our potatoes are fork tender, so just going to pour these out into a colander, drain all the water off of them. Put them back in. And now we're going to get ready to mash our potatoes here. Going to put in about another teaspoon of salt. And then some fresh cracked pepper. Some people don't like pepper on their mashed potatoes. And if you don't like it, don't use it. And I'm going to add me about 3 tablespoons of butter in there. And I'm going to pour a 1/4 cup of half and half. And we'll start mashing. And as you can see, those potatoes just disintegrate. It's so good and creamy. Start out with a 1/4 cup of the half and half, and if you need to add more, we can add a little more. I'm going to add just probably a tablespoon more. Kind of till you get it to the right consistency. Now, you talk about good. These are so good. All right. I believe we are done. That looks absolutely delicious. When we return, we're going to get our sugar snap peas prepared, and then we're going to get our meatloaf glazed, and then we're going to be ready to eat. We'll get this meatloaf out, put our glaze on it. Gosh, you can just smell this right now. Wow, wow, wow. That looks so good. So for our glaze, I'm going to get real complicated here and tell you it's 2 ingredients. It's a half a cup of ketchup, a quarter cup of lightly packed brown sugar, and basically we're just going to stir that together. Like I said, this is really complicated. The real star of this show, though, is the meatloaf. You can see all those, the green and red peppers and the onions, and I'm telling you, the smell's out of this world right now. All right, so I'm just going to pour that over. Just take a spoon, just kind of work that on. Just let it kind of fall over the sides. And what this ketchup and sugar is going to do is it's going to caramelize in the oven. And here in about 15 minutes, you're going to see this masterpiece. And I'm telling you, yum, oh, it'll be too good. All right. So now we got it glazed. We're going to put it back into our oven for about 15 minutes until it's good and caramelized. And then that'll be ready. And then we're going to get prepared here in just a moment to do our sugar snap peas. We're going to get started on our sugar snap peas. We'll put in about a tablespoon and a half of olive oil. We're going to go ahead and let that heat up. And I got these fresh sugar snap peas yesterday at the grocery store. And basically, kind of like green beans if they have an end. Sometimes there's a string, sometimes not. These don't take just a moment to look at. Sometimes they have a little string on them. And if they do, of course you don't want to eat the strings, so we'll pull them off. But they're really fine. So if you do miss one, it's not a big deal. Sugar snap peas is so good, and if you've never had them, they're absolutely nothing, in my opinion, they're nothing like a regular pea, and they're absolutely nothing like a green bean either. They're just very unique. They have a kind of a sweet undertone, which is really nice, and they're just absolutely so good. And this right here is so quick and easy, this recipe, because this is just a really quick saute. That's heating up pretty nicely. But I tell you, we're going to be fixing up our sugar snap peas, and we're going to put them in this bowl here. And if you'll notice this bowl I have sitting here in front of me, I'm actually using some of our dishes that we have in our china cabinet, and our dishes that we have were actually handed down to us by a family. And I tell you what, and this really makes me mad when I see people, they've got all these, hundreds or even $1,000 dishes in their dining room cabinet or in their kitchen cabinet, and they never eat out of them. And what good are they doing you? And I'm not saying eat out of them every day, but whenever you have a special meal, and especially a really nice family meal like we're preparing tonight, live a little. Get those out and use those. Because most likely they were bought for you, and people that bought them sure didn't want you to let them go to waste. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and put on what I have here. Turn that down to about a medium low. Let's get started. Just going to kind of move these around in the pot a little bit. Get a little bit of color. Add a little bit of kosher salt. That's about a teaspoon. And then we'll actually finish these off with a little bit of fleur de sel. So we'll let these saute. We're going to let these saute for about 3 to 5 minutes. And we're going to let them get a little bit of color on them. And then when we come back, we're going to have everything prepared and ready for a meal. Our sugar snap peas, we've been cooking them now for about 5 minutes. And they are good and tender and just a tad bit crispy. And I'm going to pour them out into our bowl here. Looks so good. And we're going to just finish these with a little bit of fleur de sel. Finish them off. Don't those look divine? Can't wait to dig in. When we come back, we'll have everything plated and we'll be ready to chow down. We are ready to eat, and I'm telling you what, I wish each of you was here right now, because this is just going to be a wonderful, wonderful dinner. And this is definitely one worth sharing with your family. Try this meatloaf. Oh. Those peppers, onions are so tender, so good. You can get all that flavor from the Italian sausage mixed in with the lean beef. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And our Yukon Gold mashed potatoes. You could cook me a cooker full of those anytime and I could eat the whole cooker. They're that good. So good. Then we got our sauteed sugar snap peas. I finished them with a little bit of fleur de sel on top. Got just a little bit of bite, but they're tender. So good. You taste a little bit of that sweetness and the underlying flavor. Wonderful. And then, as you can see here, we've got our beautiful caramel sauce, and we're going to drizzle that over vanilla ice cream. And I can't wait to dig into this. Heaven. Heaven. So I hope that you'll make these dishes a part of your family dinner night. And if you would like any of these recipes featured on today's show, you can go to Mountain Telephone's Facebook page, and the links will be there. Also, you can go to Mountain Telephone's website at mrtc.com, click on MTTV, and then click the recipes link. And all the recipes from all of our shows will be there. Again, we're coming to you live from the beautiful Martha Stacey Conference Center kitchen. We appreciate Bank of the Mountain so very much for allowing us to shoot here. It's a beautiful building, and if you have any questions about rental, feel free to call Bank of the Mountains. Until next time, I'm David Bradley, and thank you for joining us.